Hi, this is Mihai with an overview of the IBM Cloud Catalog. After logging into cloud.ibm.com, you're presented with a dashboard. This provides you information on the resources you currently have provisioned in your account, planned maintenance, usage, status, support cases, and options to deploy or create new resources, either by clicking on Create Resource on the catalog or on the navigation bar on the left. The navigation bar on the left provides you with a logical way of grouping these services. You can take a look at classic infrastructure, for example, if you'd like to provision things like block storage, file storage, object storage, cloud backup, as well as manage existing devices. Looking at Cloud Foundry, you're able to provision a platform as a service offering with cloud functions. You get access to, let's say, a way to deploy your applications just by deploying your code in the form of a function, and that function can also be used in conjunction with actions, triggers, in order to create a event-driven architecture. As a simple example, let's say that I'm now recording a video, and this video is in NKV format, and I want to convert it. What I can do with IBM Cloud Functions is to trigger that conversion every time a new video is uploaded on object storage. So I can create this event-driven pipeline. You can do similar things for ETL, for example. So Cloud Functions can be used as a glue between your applications. Other offerings that you can take a look in the catalog include Kubernetes. This is IKS, IBM Kubernetes Service and Managed offering, and OpenShift. You also have access to VMware and VPC infrastructure. So just to highlight a couple of the things under VMware infrastructure, I'm going to click Overview. And I'm going to give you an example of the VMware offerings that are available through our catalog. First, a few concepts. Within IBM Cloud, you have two types of VMware offerings: shared or dedicated, where you're provisioning your own infrastructure on top of bare metal servers. You also have feature services like Zerto for application, Horizon for VDI, OpenShift, which can also be provisioned not just on bare metal or virtual servers, but also on VMware, Caveonix to manage risk and compliance, and other offerings available through the catalog. One of the interesting features that you can find with VMware solutions is the automated deployment on single zone or multi-zone stretch cluster. If you select VMware Solutions Dedicated and multi-zone stretch cluster, I'm going to go with a sample configuration here of medium, and I'm going to take a look at the topology diagram. What this is a way to deploy VMware across 3 IBM data centers for high availability purposes. Your storage is stretched using vSAN across 2 of these data centers, while your third data center acts as a witness node. So let's take a look at the topology diagram. As you can see, what I have here are multi-zone regions. So I have site A, site B, and site C. This is effectively an MZR. Within this, I have vSAN that stretches across 2 of my sites. And on site C, I'm placing the witness node. You don't need to do anything here. Everything is done automatically by IBM Cloud. So if I'm going to select the location, let's say London, I can select the location of my management and resources, like so my witness node and so on. I can decide how this is licensed. I can decide how the witness cluster is configured. I can also put workloads on the witness cluster. So going back, I want you to take away one thing, is that a lot of the offerings within IBM Cloud can be deployed in a multi-zone region. The same can be said for Kubernetes, the same can be said for OpenShift. Now, other areas that you want to take a look at are VPC infrastructure. This lets you build a fully isolated environment without having to resort to using VMware on bare metal. It's one of the VMware offerings, or to use software-defined network. Within this VPC, you have access to the same type of resources that you have within classic infrastructure, with some exceptions, right? You have VirtualServer instances. You can bring in your custom images as well, so you can bring in your own operating system. So let's say, for example, that I want to bring in a new operating system like RHEL or a new version of CentOS. I can do so as well. And you can create subnets, access control lists, and other ways to secure and load balance your applications. Other services you might find interesting for your clients are API management, where you can basically create APIs with various endpoints. Maybe you're using functions as service as a backend, or maybe you're using containers or OpenShift as a backend. You're leveraging this for load balancing, for managing your API, for monetizing your API, right? So it's a very good way to develop applications very fast. There are application development tools, again, such as starter kits. You'll find DevOps tools, such as a continuous delivery pipeline, which can be used to automate the build, the test, and the deploy of your applications. So you can create tool chains. And you have a number of samples here that you can get started with. And you can do this using Tecton pipelines, which is a portable way of building applications, a portable way of building pipelines. Or you can use the traditional classic IBM Cloud pipelines. You also have access to web development environment. So Ryan Eclipse Web IDE, for example, gives you development environment where you can write code directly from the IBM Cloud interface. Interconnectivity, you can connect with direct link, for example, to a customer environment. Observability lets you monitor and manage and do things like logging and event management, and you have access to LogDNA, you have access to Sysdig through this interface, and of course to Activity Tracker, which basically lets you see all of the API calls that go against IBM Cloud. Schematics lets you automate things. Simple as that, right? It's Terraform as a service. You have a very, very quick way to write automation, and this can be done using a as a service type approach within IBM Cloud. Security, some of the interesting features, or at least some of my favorite features, here are the security advisors, which tells me, hey, I have a configuration issue, for example, or I have images with vulnerabilities. So within the IBM Cloud account, you have access to things like an image catalog. So for example, here I have an image which is vulnerable on purpose, right? So I've uploaded an image and I haven't updated it in a while. An image in itself isn't vulnerable, right? It doesn't do anything. But when this image becomes an instance, so in this case a container, and it's running, then these vulnerabilities could be an issue. So with IBM Cloud, you have access to a container registry with Vulnerability Advisor, which tells you, hey, you have a configuration issue here, or perhaps this image hasn't been updated in a while, and you shouldn't deploy it. And you can create rules to actually stop this image from being deployed. You also have access to things like mobile development, blockchain, integration services, other managed solutions, and of course, Watson, where you can have access to APIs for machine learning, for chatbots, for example, with Watson Assistant, and other key services that you can use throughout your applications. If you'd like to find out more on how you can build applications, I would suggest that you take a look at IBM Cloud Solution tutorial page, and this will give you hands-on information on how to use your cloud account to do just about anything. Write Kubernetes applications, OpenShift, chatbots, work with security. These are quite detailed and you can use them to get experience with IBM Cloud. Now, not all of these services are free, so in some cases there may be costs for trying this out. In the case that you find some services too expensive, I suggest you take a look at IBM Cloud Demos, where you can find limited time environments where you can do this for free as well. I'm going to go to the full catalog here. And in the full catalog, I'm going to click on services, and I'm going to see the sections here: compute, containers, network, and so on and so forth. The provider, is it an IBM or a partner? The type of pricing plan. So let's see what's for free, right? So I'm going to select light and free. The difference between these is basically that one needs to have a credit card. It's still free, but you need your account activated. I'm going to select compute. So with compute, I actually see that I have a virtual server available for free which is HyperProtect, a Linux One server. So I'm going to go here to my account. I'm going to select the region. So I'm going to go with Frankfurt 05. I'm going to select free, and I'm going to provision this resource. Now keep in mind that this instance will be deleted in a month, which should be sufficient time to try out a couple of things. Give it a meaningful name. Now, what you'll also want to do is to give it a SSH key, which lets me access the server since this is a Linux server, and I'm gonna hit create. With the server active, you can now connect to it. First, identify the IP address you'd like to connect to, open a terminal, and SSH into the server. As you can see, we're now connected to it. So let's take a look at the operating system. Now, this runs Ubuntu 18.04. Let's take a look at the processor. As you can see, we are on S390X. So we're on a Linux One server. And we can get information on some of the resources we have. This is not too bad for a free machine. Let's install something. Oh, we are on Ubuntu. And as you can see, installation proceeds as usual, as with any other virtual server. What I found is that this tends to be a lot faster. So we've just installed a piece of software. We can also install a database, and let's see if we can get this started. There we go. Now, you'll probably want to use the service we already have for the database instead, but this is just to show you how fast these servers tend to be. And keep in mind I'm just using the free tier here. Thank you, and please go explore on your own. With an IBM account, you can access all of the free and the light services. You can also request another account if you want to have, your account upgraded if you want to have full access. For other services, also IBM Cloud demos.